Finally, evidence-based best practices and how this helps us executing the material in the classroom. So it talks about how the material is based on up-to-date evidence-based practices that have a high effect on student achievement, of course. And we're talking here about task-based learning, project-based learning, communicative approaches, and modern methodologies to be able to read better, for example. And in this case, this material has plenty of those. As well, it has the communicative approach, and task-based learning is basically is very heavy here in a good way. So it's not a fail, it's a pass. Let's see. Teaching material incorporates some evidence based, but may not be consistently aligned with the most effective practices in the field of education. So here we see some, but we would like to see much more of that. It's not just the text and some comprehension questions and that's it. So we see a lot of those approaches happening in the material. So it's not a pass. It is a top mark again. In this case, we see, how do we see communicative approach? Students have to talk to each other in a very controlled way, back-to-back activity. Students have to create some questions, write some words, create some questions, but then use those questions for a survey. So it's task-based learning. I'm going to write questions for a specific task and not just to practice the grammar. Then I'm going to ask those questions to get some information. Again, task-based learning. I'm going to write information about my classmate, but I'm also going to add some false information, again, a task, so that the rest of the class listens to what I'm saying and says if it's true or false. So there's again another task. You could call it a mini project even, so there is some best practices in education happening here, ordering paragraphs as well. And finally, conversation strips, again, for freer practice activity or semi-controlled practice activity for practicing English, speaking to each other. So that's why it's a top mark.